I hate the phrase, the terrible twos. Some people call it like the terrible twos, the troublesome threes, the fearsome fours. I don't like those. I'm sure you've heard them. Let's not label our kids as bad, shy, naughty, any of the things. I just don't think it's useful. All right, what's the problem with 2-year-olds? I think it comes down to communication, mostly, and misunderstandings because of communication issues. And it's because they're 2. All right, so we're going to touch on how we can solve this problem, some actionable tips and steps for conquering the terrible twos. Let me help you reframe what terrible twos are, and again, how we can overcome them with actionable steps. The first thing we need to do is understand what's really going on. So when your kid's having a meltdown, a breakdown, whatever the case, why? Why are they freaking out? What is the problem? Sometimes as the adult, you need to slow down. All right, sometimes we're a mile a minute, we're just trying to hustle, and they're having a breakdown. You think they're just being naughty or bad, but really they're upset, and it might be something silly. You know, example, maybe they wanted the blue cup, you gave them the red cup, okay? To you, it's silly, it's meaningless. To them, it meant something, and it caused a breakdown. Kids this age don't have the emotional regulation, all right? We got to teach that to them, and we got to teach it by being a good example, of course, first and foremost, and then by teaching them how to handle it, okay? What's appropriate, what is not. You know, getting upset is okay, but throwing a complete and utter tantrum is not okay. Hitting a wall, throwing a cup, things like that, not okay. All right, so we need to help them handle it, but first, sometimes we need to understand what actually caused the problem. Sometimes we can fix the problem, or sometimes we should just try to avoid the problem. So I think the first step, if you're feeling like you're in the terrible twos, is to focus on communication. Is your 2-year-old 24 months, or are they like 35 months? There's a huge difference in their ability to communicate, particularly verbally communicate. Okay, so first of all, we are trying to talk to them, get on their level. And again, maybe they're very verbal, maybe they're not. This is where maybe you're doing sign language. Maybe you have certain common phrases that you're working on practicing with them and just increasing their ability to communicate. All right, that could be repeating sentences back and forth, mocking, mirroring, you know, different singing songs or educational videos, totally up to you on all your resources. But we want to encourage them to communicate properly and effectively. And again, this could mean sign language if it helps. It doesn't matter how you're doing it. The point is you understand each other and you understand what the other one desires. Okay, so this example I have for this situation. With our first child, they would whine. They might not even been 2. They were maybe 18 months, maybe 2, somewhere in that range. They would go to our couch. Our couch is very high up, and they would whine. They wanted up on the couch. And after a long day at work, whether it was me, my husband, it grated on us. And my husband in particular was like, I'm over this. Like, how do we stop this? Without being mean to our child, without disciplining them or like constantly getting on them, like, quit whining, quit whining. They could not talk yet. They were not verbal. All right, they 100% were not at this point. So he had a moment, and he had just a light bulb moment where he was like, I got this. He taught our little toddler, who could walk, could stand at the side of the couch perfectly fine, to walk over to the couch and tap it. Tap, tap. Basically where you would sit on the couch, like the seat portion, they could reach their little hand up and tap, tap. And that tap, tap meant, let me up, help me up. And we would lift them onto the couch. Oh my gosh, it made a world of difference for us, especially again, at the end of a long day. Tap, tap is so much better than whining. Okay, so we communicated. They didn't know the words. Nope. Was that a proper use of sign language? No, we made it up. Okay, now do we use some real signs like more or like water or even just like drink? Yes. But on the tap tap, that's not real sign language. That's just our made up home sign language. It worked though, okay? And it eliminated one problem. All right, sometimes you gotta take it one problem at a time. Now I wanna talk about some of the behavioral things that come along with these tantrums and your behavior as well as theirs. Okay, so when it comes to the communication and this whole just teaching our children and them growing and getting through tantrums and the terrible twos, as they call it, we need boundaries. We need consistency. Those are some of my favorite words. Boundaries. What are our standards? Okay, say you got them the red cup, they wanted the blue cup, they throw it across the room. That is a hard no. We do not do that in this household. Okay, things like that. Just hard boundaries, big no's. Those are okay. There's also gentle no's as well. Like, we're not going to throw a fit over the wrong cup. Or maybe in your home, that's not a boundary. They wanted the blue cup, the red one's in the dishwasher, you get it out, you clean it, you give it to them. You're willing to do that. It's up to you what you do with your time. Consistency. If one time you say no, every time you need to say no on that same situation. If you're consistent, they learn it faster. And then the faster they learn it, the less like whining you have or tantrums or meltdowns, okay? Because they know what to expect. Be consistent, be routine, be structured, and hold a standard in your home, okay? It's up to you what that standard is, but keep it and maintain it. When it comes to consistency and routines, I have a video that's kind of similar. It's talking about why toddlers repeat things. All right, so just think about this. They're pushing a boundary, and maybe they just keep pushing that same boundary, and you're frustrated. I want you to think of it from more of a scientific learning experiment. Why do kids repeat things? So say you have a toddler, I don't care what age, and they make a tower of blocks and they dump it. Okay, one day they do it on hardwood and it's loud and they hear it. But then maybe the next day they do it on carpet and they knock it down and it's quiet and they hear that it's different. This is why toddlers repeat things. It's like they're doing an experiment. They're testing to see if they get the same results. So when you're in the grocery store and they ask for, I don't know, a candy or something on the way out, and one day you say yes and another day you say no, they're going to keep testing because they want to see what the result is. They're not trying to frustrate you. They're not trying to exhaust you, but they are running their own little experiment to see what happens if I ask. And then they'll advance it. What happens if I whine? What happens if I cry? Okay, so don't take every fit or breakdown as like a personal attack on you. It's not. They're experimenting and they're testing your boundaries. So again, keep those boundaries, routines, consistency, and understand that toddlers do repeat things for a reason sometimes. And I will link that video, just going a little bit more over that if you're interested in that topic as well. So now some practical things. Okay, set routines. All right, and maybe you warn your child what's happening way in advance. Maybe you don't. Okay, maybe this works for you. Maybe it doesn't. Totally depends on your child. But maybe you say, it's time to put on your shoes. And then they throw a fit. They don't want to. Well, maybe next time you say, it's time to put on your shoes. We're going to the library. If they like the library. Now your kid could flip this on you and be like, well, I don't want to go to the library. And then they don't want to put their shoes on. And, you know, it could not work for your kid. But for some kids, it's a fit to put on the shoes. But if you explain to them briefly and concisely why they're putting on the shoes, they might be more willing to do so. Other things like consistency would be every time you play outside, do they wear shoes or do they do barefoot? It's up to you. Some people don't care. And if you don't care, that's fine. But if you're going to care one day, you need to care most of the days. It's hard to explain when you're inconsistent. So routines, structure, consistency. I love those words, phrases, and actions behind those. Another tip when it comes to routines is don't always feel like it's by the clock. Like at 9 a.m. we eat breakfast and at 10 a.m. we do stories. Go with a flow to your day. We eat breakfast and after breakfast we move on to stories. Maybe one day breakfast is longer, one day it's shorter. Don't be stressed by the clock. Instead, have a flow to your day and a routine and a consistent routine, because that builds predictability, and predictability equals more calm in your child. They're less anxious. They don't have to worry about what's coming next. They already know. All right, so you can help prevent some of those meltdowns and breakdowns by having a flow that is consistent to the day. When it comes to the terrible twos and breakdowns, patience, that's always important. You have to slow down as a parent, get on their level, try to understand the problem, try to resolve or avoid the problem. For example, say you're struggling with the wrong color cup, red cup, blue cup. Ideally, before you bought the cups, I would have told you get a matching set. But if you already bought them, maybe you switch them out. Again, budget, wastefulness, up to you. But I will say in our house, our cups don't match. We have like rainbow cups, but our plates and our bowls all match. They are like that kind of like Tiffany blue type color. I don't know, blue, green, whatever you want to call it. They all match. So my kids never argue about plates or bowls. It is one less argument. Now silverware can be, they don't all match, they can be tricky. Cups can be tricky. But if you have a fight over the plate, the bowl, the cup, the silverware, that is exhausting. And it's every day, multiple times a day. If you're a stay-at-home parent, multiple meals, multiple snacks, eliminate some of the choices. All right, if you're struggling with too many choices in their day, eliminate some. There's also not giving them choices. You know, when it comes to putting on their shoes, you could say, go pick out a pair of shoes and put them on. Maybe they picked the wrong ones and then you're frustrated. Or you could specifically say, go put on your yellow rain boots. Sometimes it's easier to take away their choices. Sometimes it's too much for them to handle. All right, and then on top of that, when you say no, you need to mean no. Okay, when it comes to meltdowns, terrible twos, all the things. If you say no, mean no. Don't say no, and then when they cry or scream and 2 seconds later, you give in. Pause before saying no and decide if that no is going to be a real no. If it's not, don't waste the no. Just say yes. If you're going to let them have the treat in 2 seconds, just say yes the first time. Don't say no and then say yes, because you're weakening your authority as a parent. I have a whole nother video going over like no means no. So if you want to check that out, I will link that in the description as well. The terrible twos can definitely be a roller coaster. I think a lot of it comes down to how we handle it and how we communicate with them and how we teach them to communicate with us. All right, it is on us to help them be good little children and be functional little children in society. We are the teachers. It is our job to mold them into good little humans, okay, that we want to interact with and we want to be around, we want to take out in public and not be afraid of what they're going to do. So remember, routines, consistency, get on their level, talk to them. If you're in the toddler trenches and you have any tips you want to offer to other mamas, please post those in the comments. And also I'm going to link a couple more videos, one about table manners for toddlers and young children, as well as our bedtime routine and how we get it done in about 15 to 20 minutes. So check for all those links in the description. I hope to see you in one of those videos. Until then, have a great day.